This is the KubeBuilder controller runtime and controller tools meeting for Thursday, July 30th, 2020. As a reminder, this meeting is being recorded and will be posted to YouTube eventually, so don't say anything you don't want recorded for all of time. All right, so looks like we have one agenda item for today from Alvaro. So why don't you take it away, Alvaro?
Yes, so I basically have a question. So the background is that people apparently use what's in package builder to create webhooks, and what's in there is very little with regard to webhooks. This is about validating and mutating webhooks, which then resulted in someone creating a pull request to extend this. And since I personally never used KubeBuilder to build a webhook, I've looked at the history at this and found out that this functionality did exist in the past. Basically using the builder to create a mutating or validating webhook, but was removed by you in January. So today we have some examples that do not use the builder, but that seem to be able to cover the validating and mutating webhook case. But it seems that at least for people that use this coming from KubeBuilder, the CLI, this is not the best way to go. At least that's what the author of this pull request commented in the end. And for me, it's just unclear what the vision for webhooks is, if what's in package builder for webhooks is just a reminder and should be removed. Yeah. And I think Solly would be the only one who can answer this.
Okay, so I think the background on this was let me try to page the rest of this information into my memory. But the background on this is I think was kind of that the builder, so the purpose of the builder is supposed to be largely to remove extra boilerplate from the implementation. So we kind of wanted to make especially when there wasn't declarative validation. So a lot of this came about from before there was declarative validation, but especially when there wasn't declarative validation, we wanted to make it kind of have an idiomatic way of specifying validation on your CRD. And so the idea of being able to have just like a validate method on your CRD object and being able to use the builder to just be like, oh, this CRD object conforms to the standard interface, let's go with that. That was kind of the idea around having the builder and the current form of the builder. For kind of the generic case of I want to run a validating webhook against arbitrary, like an arbitrary type, I think it wasn't clear what the builder provided over just directly like constructing the webhook. And so we kind of removed that because it wasn't like, I don't see much purpose to the builder there. I haven't reviewed this PR yet, so, but I don't know, did that come through clearly? I feel like that was a little rambly.
Yeah, I think it makes total sense. For me, most importantly, the author of this PR in the very end said that he uses KubeBuilder, uses controller runtime coming from KubeBuilder, and he, quote, would still like to move forward to some design that KubeBuilder can take advantage of that abstracts away the request handler, parsing, and response logic. I've never used KubeBuilder, the CLI, so I don't really know what's expected there and how the current state of affairs doesn't match that. as someone who directly uses controller runtime, I find it completely okay the way webhooks are constructed today, but I don't know how that looks if you come from KubeBuilder.
Oh,
But sorry, but by today you mean like that the type has the validate methods.
So that's probably another issue. There are, if I saw it correctly, two conflicting ways of do it. The one is this in examples built in and then validating mutating webhook, where you can do whatever you want. You get the request and you can do whatever you want. And there's something that's somehow implemented on the type itself, which is what is transiently used when using the builder. The latter is actually severely limited, which is what this pull request was supposed to fix, I think.
Yeah, okay.
Maybe the issue is just that we should remove this thing that's based on adding or having validation on the types themselves. I don't know.
it has generated a lot of confusion where people have been like, how do I get this equivalent on the high level types? And then we have to point them at, or how do I get this equivalent to the high level on built-in types? And then we end up pointing them at, oh, well, you just use the like kind of quote unquote lower level primitive, which is what's in the example for built-in. I think we should probably take this as a sign that needs some reworking, perhaps a bit, at the very least, maybe just our approach to how we talk about it, but also probably the overall design. I would like to figure out what this person means by like can be used by KubeBuilder. But I am a little bit sympathetic to the idea of wanting to apply the same, like, I don't care about manually constructing the request response. I just want to have like kind of a similar interface that's not a method. But I'm not sure what we want to do there. I also will have to read through this PR.
So I talked with this person internally once, and I think the main motivation to push this through was to actually get a client, which I highly suggested to not plow a client through or like a global client because the default implementation is on the types themselves. And so I think that's where this came from originally. So I'll say that like in Cluster API, like we're using the types as validation, defaulting, etc. Like as it was suggested. It is pretty limiting, although I did like the fact that like a client wasn't there because you don't get potentially into a loop between resources. So it has its pros and cons as long as it's documented. Like I don't have strong opinions to like push that out of the from the types to like a different struct or something. It will make it right now. It's like very clear though that like for example for defaulting webhooks, like it targets this specific version of something of like a type. So in the new world, like I guess it would be not that explicit, but that's fine as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think some of those are like kind of as you said. That is a little bit of a nice benefit, is that like the high level interface prevents you from doing things that are potentially bad. And if you want to do stuff like have a client in your webhook, you do end up having to drop down to the lower level stuff.
Yeah. the other benefit that we saw was that like you don't need any RBAC if you don't need a client as well, which is kind of nice because then webhooks just become like static function in some ways.
Yeah, that was kind of the idea, to capture that common case. Yeah, I think I would like to know, at least, because like I don't know, at least for a lot of the cases that I've dealt with, and I think this maybe says something, there's something wrong about our documentation or our API or something, but a lot of the people I've talked to that have been like, oh, I wanted to use the same interface on built-in types, just didn't know that the low-level interface existed. So it's not like, it's not clear to me how much of a burden that is over this, right? Like how much of a jump it is from returning, instead of returning error or nil, returning webhook.succeed or webhook.failed. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, I guess the main point is probably actually that we should document this, and I think that was also the point Vince was trying to make before. There are some cases where maybe you want a client, but there's a good chance you're on your way to build yourself a foot gun, so you should be really sure you know what you're doing there. So maybe making that explicit in the docs rather than implicit by making it hard to use a client would help you.
Yeah, I agree. We definitely should be more explicit in the book and in the docs and stuff too. All right, let's follow up with this person offline as well, or not offline, but like on the issue as well, and write some of this down. Anyone else have any thoughts?
So what are we doing for this particular PR? Like, do we want to push back or like take a step back and do a design maybe in the next cycle and validate the use cases a little more?
Yeah, I'd like to just get a little bit more information, because like some of the stuff that the person has commented on, like some design that KubeBuilder can take advantage of, is it's unclear to me what the user is trying to get at there.
Okay, yeah, let's do that, and yeah, we can follow up.
Yeah, I'd like to understand like where the impression that KubeBuilder can't take advantage of the built-in webhooks comes from, and like stuff like that.
All right, should we move on? Sally, you're muted if you're talking. I don't know.
Oh no, I haven't. I was just giving people a moment to respond or anything. But all right. Looks like we have two more items that just got added. I think Joe is on both of them. So do you want to start,
Yeah,
Joe?
sure. So the first one is just something we talked about last time, where we were looking at adding a flag for Zap time encoder, but we talked about basically like, let's not add the flag, but let's add the options on the struct to enable setting encoder options. So we've updated that PR to do that, and I think we're just basically interested in pushing that along and seeing if there's anything else left to do there. So I just wanted to kind of this is just a reminder mainly. But this one now basically like only has the options on the struct and then sets the defaults accordingly and uses the options. And there's nothing to do with flags in this one as far as I can remember.
Okay. Looks like as of 2 days ago, I'm assigned, so it should be on my list of things to look at.
Perfect. Okay, if there's nothing else there, then the next topic I have is about Kubernetes in general and specifically with 119. So we started to look at updating some of our operators and stuff to start using 119s. We want to be ready for GA when it comes out. So of course, one of the first things we do is we try to bump our Kubernetes dependencies, and all of a sudden we see that control runtime has this incompatible logger issue. So there's a PR 1011 to bump logger to support the new logger interface that's in logger v 0.2, which fixes it such that things can start compiling in Kubernetes 119. But then like I have the question of like, how exactly are we managing the versioning of all of this? Like if we merge something like this to master, does that like before 119 GAs, are we then like, are we able to still backport stuff to existing releases that don't have that change? I guess I'm curious if we've done that kind of thing before. And how we're doing that.
So usually if we have existing releases, we will, and we start changing stuff on master that's breaking, we'll just use cherry picks to cherry pick to the stable branches.
Okay.
So it does happen, like cherry picks do happen on occasion. I think, for instance, Vince did a release recently of 0.5 that has some cherry picks in it. But yeah, usually the way to do that is just, normal, get cherry pick and then file a PR against the stable branch. So release dash and then whatever the stable.
Right. So the idea, I know we've talked about this before and it's a little cloudy. So is the idea that basically we release 0.6 supported Kubernetes 118. As soon as we want to, effectively, we could merge a 119 PR into master. And then from then on, if we want something to be supported with 118, we're backporting to 0.6. Are we like kind of aligning minor versions to Kubernetes versions?
We don't explicitly align minor versions to Kubernetes versions, but like version upgrades that are breaking changes,
right? In
terms, or dependency upgrades that are breaking changes that surface something through our API end up corresponding to major versions of controller runtime. So in this case, like Go logger, we have part of this custom logger in our API.
Right.
And so therefore it's a breaking change. We need to make this change.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess then my final kind of wrap it up kind of question is like, are we then okay merging this logger fix on master such that users that are wanting to start trying out 119 can compile?
Yeah, I think that's fine.
Okay.
I think that would be very good because there might be people that want to try it out, and it might be helpful for both us and maybe even upstream Kubernetes if people start using this in their own development branches, and then we can get feedback rather than waiting until there's a final release.
Alfred, are you suggesting even merging the Kate's bump PR that I have that right now is pinned to like an RC version of 119?
Yeah, basically, I think that would be a good idea.
I think, yeah, so I guess that's another kind of question. If we do that, then that effectively means we have to wait, unless we're okay making a tag on a pre-release version of Kubernetes. But I think that what that means is we are effectively now for sure waiting until GA of Kubernetes 1.19 before we cut a new release tag for 0.7, which I think I'm personally okay with that, but that's maybe a question for everyone else.
Yeah, I would agree with that, especially because we have a lot of breaking changes and proposals that are like trying to push through, right? So like we could do a pre-release of a tag, like if we really wanted to, or I mean, we could just tell folks to use a commit if they wanted to try things out, which is probably fine, I guess.
That's what we're doing in some places in Operator SDK. And we're just like, all right, pin to the latest master. We know we have stuff on there that we need that we want to use. So if we merge in a release candidate of 1.19, we can always just pull the latest commit on master.
Cool. Before we merge breaking changes, I'll take a look if like we should do a 0.6 release, so that we don't have to backport things, because it's like more work for us, I guess. And yeah, maybe cut like a release on the current main branch, and then yeah, we can start merging in and opening. Also, I think we already have a release 0.6 branch. Yeah, we do. So we should be okay.
If possible, I would like to get that encoder config option PR onto a 0.6 release, if possible.
Yeah,
which I think we have it tagged that way, but just if we're going to start merging other breaking changes, like you say, might be nice to get that merged before we merge other breaking changes if we're going to do more releases on master for 0.6.z.
Sounds good. Honestly, like I was just waiting for 1.19.0 to come before we would open the master branch to breaking changes, but like I'm completely fine to kind of release and say this is now like on 1.19, it's a breaking change, and we'll keep iterating before 0.7.0.
Cool. That all sounds good to me.
Awesome.
All right. Does anyone else have anything that they would like to talk about today?
Yes, one last thing is we need a release of controller tools as well, right? 0.3.1, I want to remember correctly. Okay.
A little while.
Yeah, I'm pretty booked this week, but so apologies for that. Like, but it's on my agenda for next week unless someone has more time to do it before then.
I think that sounds good.
Do we want to lock the KubeBuilder release on controller runtime release and controller tools? I mean, there hasn't been much effort on my part to get the KubeBuilder release out. I've been a little bit busy with the 1.0 SDK release, but I think aside from a docs change that there's a PR open for, and one or two other things that are in the V3 scaffolding milestone, I think we're pretty close to where we want to be for the KubeBuilder 3.0 release. Like I mentioned, I think last week, there might be a few issues that we want to take a look at and add to the 3.0 milestone. So I have some time this week, so I can go through and make sure that those are added. But I'm certain that we're fairly close to being able to release that. Does anybody have anything specific that they think should go in the 3.0 release that they can think of right now?
I think the most important that I can remember that I think it would be nice would be we upgrade the CRGs and the webhooks version to use the V1. I think it would be very nice.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, Camilla. It's a good time to do that.
Yeah, and Sully, you and I discussed a little while ago some things that need to happen before that. I think the preserve unknown fields being explicitly set to false is one of those things, and there's a PR open for that. I think the author needs to, well, I guess we should also discuss like what's happening with the v3 alpha plugin, because all the changes that we want for 3.0 aren't going to be in that plugin because v2 is frozen. So this preserve unknown fields PR is going to go into the v3 plugin. I would assume that the switch from v1 beta 1 to v1 by default scaffold in the make file is going to be in the v3 plugin as well. And I think, yeah, I think that was it.
Is that a change that could be made to controller gen defaults, or is this something we only want to do in KubeBuilder's make file?
The webhooks. It's not possible, at least that doesn't that I know, maybe Solid knows more, but I believe that we need to change the templates because we have the webhooks as well. And we need to upgrade the webhooks version 2. So the workaround to customize the make file would not attend to all scenarios.
What needs to be changed for webhooks?
The version, the same. It's the same because this, if you look there has a pull request. The guy tried to put a spec to ignore the fields. Happens the same. The webhooks resource always upgrade the version. It's together with the CRG.
Okay. Is there an issue open for that specifically?
Yes, has.
Okay. Well, if that's the case, then that needs to be changed as well.
I will put in the chat now.
Okay, thank you. So so ideally in my opinion, ideally we should have the v3 plugin on beta by the time that we are cutting the 3.0 release and make that the default. I think as far as I'm concerned, beta means bug fixes only. And I mean, that's kind of ambiguous when it comes to plugins, but I think that's like stable enough that we can make it the default. Otherwise, we can just straight up make 3 stable. But I think it would be really nice to have this new plugin be the default in the 3.0 release. Otherwise, there's not really too much that we're releasing in 3.0, you know?
The other thing that maybe would be nice discuss would be the binaries, because I believe that now we are shipping the kubectl and the other required binaries to set up the env test with the KubeBuilder binary. So if you will change that, I believe that it maybe will be nice for 3 as well, because it will be a break change, maybe. Because when we need to remove the code for the release, has the script that do the release and build the binaries and put it together. So for V2, these are required, and we can no longer required for V3. And then we can, when we will remove the V2, we can remove this code from the any solution like that.
Is that a breaking change though? Because that only has to do with what's packaged in the release tarball, not with the actual KubeBuilder binary itself.
I think so, because for example, okay, we do a release and we don't ship these binaries with KubeBuilder, okay? When someone, yeah, I think if someone install the old binary, you'll be there. Yeah, we need, I think it's fine. Don't you broke the video, still. Sorry for that. Thinking better. Because we still have the old binary one.
So I don't necessarily know if we have a solution for how we want to hand those binaries over to users, but we do have the scripts in the main repo that users can just strip, download those binaries pretty easily. I don't necessarily know if it makes sense to be packaging those binaries with the KubeBuilder binary itself. I don't really have an opinion about that. If anybody else does, then we should definitely talk about that. But I don't think that's a release blocker.
Yeah, we originally packaged them for convenience purposes, because it was convenient to be able to just get all the stuff you needed to start running your tests and stuff in a single tarball. I know it has since caused some confusion around like how you're supposed to like upgrade your test dependencies, and like people don't know about the existence of the alternate links, of the separate test binaries and stuff like that. But we should probably make sure we have a good flow for how the users get the binaries and teaching the users when we remove.
Right. So Camilo, I believe you merged a script recently that will just download binaries at a fixed kube and etcd version pretty easily. And I think at the very least directing users to just like download that script from the release tag and run it, and then that will update their test binaries. I think that's a reasonable flow.
I think we should abstract that, and call in a making file target has a pull request for that as well. So if we could move it with this pull request before the release, it would be nice, because then V3 we could remove it from the release, the binaries, and don't ship more with the KubeBuilder one. And the users will have a way to, things will be abstract for them. They don't need to know about that unless they would like to change things, I think.
Well, you're talking about a make rule in the KubeBuilder repos makefile.
Yeah, if you see the chat, see the issue 686.
Right.
So
So I personally don't think it belongs in a makefile, because like, so let's say you put it in the KubeBuilder repos makefile, then the user has to download the entire KubeBuilder repo to run make. Why not just have the script in a very obvious place and talk about it in the docs and be like, curl raw GitHub user content, path the script.
The problem is if you follow the quick start and you don't have the binaries set up in a specific place, when you run make a Docker build, this will fail because we will call the make test, and the make test requires that the env test be configured with the binaries. So now we have the script, but in my opinion, users should be transparent for the users. Do you know? It's painful. They need to run. I think so. Why they need to care about the configuration unless mainly for new users. So my idea is like just the same steps that we can suggest in the documents, abstracting in a making file targets. So when they run, we don't need to change the quick start now, all is still working in the same way.
I'm wondering if, I think these two things are not mutually exclusive. Like we can have a doc. So in my mind, like mtest is like a control runtime kind of thing, right? It's a control runtime library. You can use control runtime and mtest without ever having touched KubeBuilder. So it makes total sense to me that we would have some doc and some like really simple script that you could use as like a control runtime user to just go and get the mtest binaries to make it easy. But it also makes total sense to me that if you are using KubeBuilder or Operator SDK or whatever, that we could easily scaffold. We do this for Kustomize already, so like why are we doing it for Kustomize but not for these other binaries? So I would probably argue, yeah, like it doesn't hurt anything to add it to the make file. We've already kind of have that precedent for other binaries that are dependencies of running make targets. So what's one more? So I would probably advocate for doing both.
I agree. I think I just would you like sorry, Eric. Just my idea is like I'm a new user. I don't know nothing. I want to follow up the quick start, and you don't care about configurations at all. Then, if I would like to change the setup, I can go in a document and understand how things work, and do the things as I wish.
Just to add to that a little bit, I had a question. So I was reading the link PR in the script, but it seems like now the script doesn't download pre-built binaries, but it builds them. Is that correct?
This is a problem that we have for Mac. Unfortunately, the Kubernetes API service is not provided for macOS. So we need to download the project and build locally. This is the same solution that we do now to generate the KubeBuilder binary. So it was just move it to a script to support both platforms.
So we have been using a lot the published artifacts, and to be honest, like it just seems like a step in the wrong direction to build locally all the time that you're running a test, the entire Kubernetes distribution. So if it's possible to keep publishing the artifacts and use those, like I'm happy to maintain them. We use them pretty extensively, especially in CI as well.
Yeah.
I would love that. I really think it's a suck. Download the project and build locally to have the binary. If it's possible, download it, it's like, why not? This doesn't have for Mac. For Linux has all.
Hold up. Sorry, I may have missed something. Where are we manually building Kubernetes locally?
I've linked you to this. Like, so this, I guess like it's only for Darwin, so it's all on Mac. But so I mean, if I have to do this every time I do make tests, that's not going to be reasonable.
Why did I think I missed something, but we definitely have a process for having CI builds already of Kubernetes, of the Kubernetes test artifacts for Darwin. It's not, I think we should fix this script. I agree. I don't know. I'm not sure what happened here, but that probably shouldn't have happened.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the problem is that for macOS, we don't have the binaries available to download. So if you look in the last link that I put in the chat, when we do the build of the KubeBuilder binary to do the release, we do all these steps. So the easy way was provide a script that you do the same and do just once. After you have the binaries, you don't do anymore. But I didn't like the solution as well. And I would love that we could have the binaries to download the binaries only from some place.
I'll interject
Yes.
that the Kubernetes binaries for Linux are published by, like, as TARS as part of building Kubernetes. The API server binary used by KubeBuilder, I believe KubeBuilder does a Darwin build of it and does publish it at some place, because the Darwin tar of KubeBuilder like had the API server binary compiled for Darwin in it. So I think what we need to do is change the script to, by default, pull the API server binary from wherever it is being hosted.
Yep, it's currently, so I can give a quick overview of the process for people on here. We have a special branch called tools release, which Vince has helpfully linked. This branch, whenever it gets changed, automatically gets picked up by Google Cloud Builds as part of the KubeBuilder project. The configuration for the Cloud Builds is listed in the branch as well. It automatically gets run, and then it gets published to a cloud storage bucket, which is linked. There's a like go.kubebuilder.io link for it in the book, which I can add, but you can also just, it's under artifacts. Hold on. I will paste the link. But you can see, you can go and browse these, and we basically, whenever that branch tools release gets updated, we publish Darwin binaries, as well as Linux binaries.
Yeah, so we should definitely keep doing this because this saves a lot of time and it's really helpful.
Yes, definitely. I agree. I didn't thought that we have in some place to download just the binary, So to solve the problem for us easily and run in the Mac without I need to install the KubeBuilder binary. I did it install, but I will fix the script. And I think would be something nice, we do before the 3 release, for don't ship more together the binaries with. We have just the KubeBuilder one and the others, we are able to download each one instead.
Yes. For what it's worth, like we have the scripting cluster API that you just specify a Kubernetes version, which has to match one that we have published in KubeBuilder, and it downloads those binaries locally and sets everything up properly. It only downloads them if it can find them as well, and if the version matches. So I can link to this if you want to reuse it, but it's pretty much already there and has been working fine. So when we run make tests locally, for example, it would actually run the script first, set the entire environment, and then like log it out, like it's setting the environment, and yeah, adapted a little bit so that like
Yeah,
it doesn't.
but do you see that it is script is pointing for the binary, the KubeBuilder binary at the end? Can you see the export?
This one?
Yes. So it means that I need to have in user local KubeBuilder bin installed. Otherwise, it doesn't work.
I guess, but I mean, we can change
configurable. Yeah, we need to update that.
We can change these paths like as much as we want. Like we create the temp directory anyway, so it doesn't. So like this doesn't require you to have KubeBuilder. It just under KubeBuilder bin. Just I guess like I don't know. Solly, I think you wrote this a long time ago, and I copied it. But yeah, like this doesn't require KubeBuilder. In fact, I don't have KubeBuilder running locally, but the make file that we have, the test target.
Yeah, those paths are just the default from a long time ago when we started working on KubeBuilder. That's kind of the default location where KubeBuilder looks for things is opt KubeBuilder bin.
Yeah.
Or user local KubeBuilder bin. But we can.
Yeah, I think the one that I showed actually has it creates a temp folder. Yeah, it's under temp right now, which you should read that. But like the test one, then it just sources that. It runs those two things, fetch tools and setup, and then it runs go test.
Yeah, but the fetch tools, you download the KubeBuilder bin. And I don't want to have the KubeBuilder bin to have the other bins, you know.
It doesn't require or download the KubeBuilder binaries. It only has Kube API server, kubectl, and etcd. The KubeBuilder is non-existent in this way.
But it's inside of the KubeBuilder bin. Do you see? You call cheese script.
This is just a name. Hold on. This is just a name. It's just under a folder, but this folder does not contain KubeBuilder because we create the folder here. Yeah. So this could be anything.
Yeah, you could change that path to anything.
Yeah. No. Yes.
Just wanted to clarify.
Why don't we move the rest of this? I think why don't we move the rest of this conversation to an issue just so that we can capture this more concretely?
Yeah. But I think it needs a clean up anyway. So yeah.
All right, and I think we're running low on time. So does anybody have any last minute things that they would like to talk about? All right, if not, I will see you in a couple weeks. And as always, you can find me on Slack if you need anything or any of the other approvers or anything. All right, see y'all in a couple weeks.
Thanks.
Okay.